Hi, I'm Peter Larkum, and welcome to Mentality Meets. We are doing these every single week. We have Mental Health Awareness Week next week, which is very exciting. But today we've got Mary Meadows with us today, also known as the Badass Mary Meadows, life coach and public speaker in the context of anxiety and depression, lived experience. I have no idea where this conversation is going to take us today, and it's very exciting. So I hope you enjoy Mentality Meets. Welcome everybody. I just want to check that everyone can hear me. So if you can hear me and you've got a video on, go for a double hand up and just kind of let me know that you're listening in, and that's all good. Ian, are you hearing everything that's being said? Yeah, all good. Okay, brilliant.
Yes, thank you.
That's fantastic. So I will be letting other people into the call as they come. And just want to say thank you very much for joining us. We never quite know how many people are going to be logging in, so it was always lovely to see people. So as always, we just kick off with a health warning in the context of this. So today I'm met with Mary Meadows, who is another member of the Speakers Collective, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of things today. We never quite know where it's going to take us, which means I need everyone to be aware of their own vulnerability and their own mental health journey. So we don't have any information about you. We don't know whether you have experienced mental health illnesses in the past or whether you're experiencing them at the moment. We don't know where you are on that vulnerability. So a couple of things that's available for you. If you find that during this it triggers some stuff and you feel a little bit more vulnerable than you were expecting, please can I encourage you to contact the Samaritans on 116 123. While we're on this chat, please feel free to use the chat bar and let me know if there's anything specific that you would like more information about. And I'll do my best to support you as you go through it. Another option is that we are promoting the Hub of Hope on all of these conversations. So it's www.hubofhope.co.uk. And it's a website where you can type in your postal address and find the mental health provision in your local area. Now, this is really important because if you're supporting someone on the other side of the country, especially while we're in lockdown and we can't get to them, we can put their postcode in and find the mental health support where they are. So it's a fantastic website, fantastic resource available. Other options is that there's a text service called Shout, and you can text Shout to 85258, and you'll then get someone who'll contact you directly back. And offer you help and support. So there's a number of different things available for you if you do feel that these sessions are a little bit of a trigger, or that you feel that your mental health at the moment is a little bit more vulnerable than normal. So let's me introduce you to our guest speaker, which is Mary Meadows today. So Mary, can you just say hi to us so that people can pin your video and then they know who we're talking to?
Hello, hi. So I am Mary Meadows. I'm part of the Speakers Collective, and I am a performance life coach and NLP practitioner. And I qualified 5 years ago now, and I'm based in Brighton, but I coach people online, and I'd like to think that I was kind of one of the first people actually using Zoom. We've got quite used to it now, haven't we? But yeah, so I coach people online all over the world, and I do workshops and webinars and things. And I'm really passionate about making coaching available to as many people as possible. It's a very, it's not a therapy. So I'm not a therapist, I'm a practitioner, and coaching is very positive, so it's very much about moving forward, and yes, and that's why I love it so much. So it's talking about what we're going to do right now to help us, and so sometimes coaching is a really good tool to kind of get into.
Very good. And so Mary, just give us a little bit of a background as to kind of what got you into this. What's been your life journey that's got you into becoming a life coach and engaging with the work that you do?
Yeah, so I didn't know that it was a proper job. I don't think my mum still thinks it's not a proper job. But so my background is actually hospitality. I worked for big hotel chains in HR management, and then I got married, and started trying to have a baby, and it didn't work out as we imagined. And so we had a very long fertility journey, culminating at 8 years of various treatments and things. And eventually we had our last IVF session, and Albie, who is now 8, is my little boy. So we finally did it. And then when Albie was about, so I had pretty much immediately after birth, I had postnatal depression, and I knew I had it. It was very clear. And it was a very weird thing. Postnatal depression is it's a very cruel illness. I can remember people asking me, it's I felt a nothingness. So it wasn't that I always find it interesting that it's called depression, because I've never actually felt depressed. I've just felt nothing. So, you know, it's my experience of it. I just didn't feel anything at all, and I had no connection with my baby at all. I used to look at my dog George, who's this really cute little Shih Tzu, and just want to kind of squeeze him, you know, when you kind of, your heart kind of goes, oh. And then I'd look at Albie, and there was literally just, yeah, it's baby, yeah, it just nothing. So it was a long process back, and it was one of those really annoying things that just took time, basically. And so just as I was starting to feel better, Albie was about 18 months, and the connection was starting to come. It was a bit like, you know, those timers, those egg timers. it was a bit like that. It's kind of little drips of, you know, these I could feel my heart pulled, as you know, and things like I wrote it in my diary. I can remember writing, I think Albie was about a year old, and when I put him down in his cot to go to sleep, I said, I love you, but without thinking about it. And I can remember going, oh my God, I've said it. It just came out. Oh my God, this is amazing. And I wrote it in my diary as a big kind of moment, you know. Yes, so just as I was starting to feel better, so Albie was about 18 months, my husband announced the affair that he was having that ended our marriage. And that was kind of my ground zero. I actually wrote that in my diary because I just thought, and I see it as a consequence of the situation. You know, we'd spent also that no one was checking in on him. You know, we'd both experienced the same experiences with fertility and very difficult pregnancy, me having postnatal depression, but not once was he asked, was he okay? And how was he coping with everything? So yeah, so I do wonder whether or not there was postnatal depression for him as well. And I just think it was just this kind of perfect storm of stuff. So he's now my ex-husband, but it's very amicable. For Albie's 8, and we have a really good relationship. Got divorced last year, and he knows that I talk about him. He's quite happy that I talk about him because it's part of my story. And that combination, basically, of being a single parent very suddenly, and not what I imagined at all, was the point where I couldn't carry on working as I'd worked, and I needed to be able to to kind of find something to fit round. And it literally, my girlfriends came round, we had a bottle of wine, and I said, okay, what are my skills? And we literally typed into Google what my skills were and what kind of job I could do, and it came up with life coach, and I was like, yeah, right, that's not a proper job. And they were like, oh my God, yes, that would be amazing, you know, you're such a good listener, you're very empathetic, it's, you know, you've got all those skills. And so I did a lot of investigating, because it's an unregulated profession at the moment, but there are a lot of people doing a lot of things to make that different. So I made sure that I did a qualification that was recognised, and I have a professional membership. So that I'm able to as soon as it is regulated, that I am going to be a practitioner.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow.
So
that's a wow. Oh, Mary, that's it's been a very hard time over the
Yeah.
last few years, and I love that idea of putting your skill set into Google and seeing what comes up. I have never thought of applying for a job in that way, but I think that works. Now, I just realised that I've not actually asked anybody any questions yet. We've kind of got straight into it, and so just a very quick question out to everyone, just so as we know who we've got on the call. Can I just ask very quickly, what's your name, and your favourite activity that you engage with at the moment? Something that just makes you happy at the moment. And you can be as honest or you can lie, because I don't know you, so you can say whatever you like, really. But just something that you are engaging with at the moment to make you happy, because I know that there are times where what we're going to be talking about in a little bit is about the things that we do to kind of bring us just a little bit of joy inside. And Joe, I love the fact that you've put mentality meets is what you do to make you feel happy. That makes me feel happy. And if you know me, you'll know that a bottle of beer and Netflix is something which I find makes me happy in an evening once I finally got the kids to bed. Chandy, as always, you've gone for the running option. I do admire your ability to run. Chris in Richmond also loves running. So what else have we got out there? I've also found that I quite like gardening. Now, I'm not much of a gardener, but and to be honest, it's not really gardening. It's weeding. I have inherited a garden that hasn't been loved very much, and my entire life is weeding at the moment. But I do actually quite enjoy it. It's quite therapeutic. The lilac tree in your garden, yoga, and the couch to 5K. Olivia loves baking. Olivia, I know that you live near me, so if you ever need to drop any baking off so that it's not in your house, please feel free to drop it around to mine, because then I can have a bottle of beer, Netflix, and some of your baking. I like this idea. I like it a lot. Anyway, let's kind of move ourselves on. Mary, with all these conversations, I ask our speakers to have a think about something that they would really like to talk about. And so, can I just ask you, what is it that you would like us to explore and to be talking about today in the world that we are in?
Yes, so it's self-compassion, and I think it's something I need to talk about. So there's definitely themes that run through my coaching sessions, my clients, and the stuff that I do. And self-compassion is just rearing its head every 5 minutes at the moment. And so I thought it would be a really interesting conversation, because when was the last time you had a conversation about self-compassion?
Can I just ask? I don't think I really know what
Okay.
self-compassion means. So audience, can you help me on this? Dictionary definition. You don't have to Google it because that might actually be cheating. But when you think of self-compassion, what comes to mind in your head for self-compassion? Because I honestly struggle to think of a way to understand it for myself. Because we've got Mental Health Awareness Week coming up next week, and
Mm-hmm.
we've got the theme of kindness. And so I kind of think kindness and self-compassion are actually fairly close, but there's something about the compassion side of things that just seems to be a little bit more tender and a little bit more caring almost than kindness. And I don't know whether that's just what I think, but at the moment we haven't got any responses on the chat, which kind of means that no one really knows what we're going through. So Ian's kind of put the compassion about knowing that you are normal and however you are is okay. Oh, I think he Googled it, because that's quite good. Being kind to ourselves and less critical of ourselves, forgiving ourselves for things when we sometimes kind of maybe feel like we should have done or could have done, but actually just allowing ourselves to forgive ourselves and say, you know what, I did the best I could at that time. Mary, what is your take on this context then of self-compassion?
Yeah. So my take is that it's about being as kind to yourself as you are to others. So I'm going to make an assumption about everybody that's on this call. There's a couple of you that I know, but we are all drawn, because we have similar values, to the things that we're drawn to. So the reason you're sitting here. and that we're all kind people. And I can imagine that you could all tell me if we were sitting in a one-to-one, what was the kindest thing that you did for somebody else recently, and you could probably reel off a couple of things. But if I asked you what was the kindest thing you did for yourself, it's hard to answer. It's difficult, and we don't think anything of being kind to others. You know, we go over and above the kind of putting other people's needs and wants first. But actually, self-compassion is about satisfying our needs and keeping promises to ourselves, at the risk of disappointing others sometimes. But yeah, so that's what I think self-compassion is.
Wow. Okay. And how do we do this? I mean, how do we begin to actually identify what it is that we need, and how we can then provide for our own needs? I mean, because again, kind of from the mental health training side of things, we talk about give to other people. When you see other people have a need, provide for that need. But I don't really ever talk about when you begin to notice a need in yourself, start providing for your own need. Why why don't we look at it like that?
Because we're human beings. I give the example of, have you ever sat at the at your computer doing your emails and you need a wee? Okay. And you're thinking, right, I'm just going to send this email and then I'm going to go and have a wee. And it's like, oh shit, another one's come in. Oh, I'll just call Tom and I'll just speak to him and then I'll go and have a wee. And we are putting off a need of ours to urinate. And you know, and every time I speak about this, everybody nods along, so I know it's not just me that does it. And you know, because we want to finish our emails, you know, we want to finish what we're doing. We're not actually relieving ourselves and, you know, making ourselves comfortable. So I give that as an example, as kind of like a real life example, and I promise you the next time you need the loo, you will go straight away. So that is something that because you are responding to a need. So I've noticed a couple of you are drinking water, and that is a self-compassionate act. The fact that you have come here to this session, it might be half an hour, might be an hour, might not stop talking for 3 hours, I don't know. But you've brought a glass of water, you've looked after your needs because you know that you're going to be thirsty. So, well, you know, amazing, high five if you've got a glass of water in front of you. So it's looking for the evidence. So I like to encourage my clients to look for the evidence of your self-compassion. And so it is about it being like your own cheerleader, if you like. So we would think nothing of, say for example, somebody said, I really struggle to drink water throughout the day. You know, I know it would be really good for my health, mental and physical, if I could drink some more water every day. Can you imagine if your friend said that to you? What would your response be?
That's a good question. Come on then, let's throw it out to the room. If you had a friend who said that they needed something, what would your response be? So context of here being a glass of water, and they needed to get that. What would your response to them be? So what is it that's stopping them from accessing it? Is it just that kind of lack of self-care, or is it that they haven't got a glass, or they haven't got a container to contain it? Or
so can you see what you're doing now, Pete, and I imagine everyone else is doing, is you're doing some critical thinking. You're thinking about what they need. You know, have they got the resources? It will make them feel so much better. You know, have they actually got the resources to enable them to do that? You know, some of my loveliest clients, you know, send me pictures of their water, because I often use water as an example in my sessions, and they're forever like texting me pictures of water bottles, you know, one in their car, one in their desk, you know, all these different places, because that's such an easy way of seeing of satisfying our self-compassion, but we don't apply that critical thinking. So that's what I'm saying. So if a friend asked you or said, I really need some help with this, you know, you'd immediately start thinking, okay, well, have you got some water bottles? Have you got more than one? Because, you know, you're going to be in different places, you know, how are you going to do it? You know, all those kind of things. And you'd be saying, well, do you want to text me? You know, do you want me to remind you? Do you want me to, you know, what can I do to help? Whereas we don't always think like that when we think of the things that we want, or the things that we need, or the things that might be important to us. So one of the first things that, in order to be self-compassionate, is to decide what you do want, which is a hard thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try and kind of put it into the space and the environment that we're in at the moment, where for a lot of people they feel like they're the general element of their life is being pulled away. They're not allowed to go and see family. They're not allowed to go and do that, and a lot of their freedoms have been taken away, which kind of means that it becomes harder to think, what do I need versus what do I want? And I guess that's probably the hardest part, is trying to figure out the difference between the wants versus those needs. So let's just throw it out, and again, be as honest as you can be. Give me something that you want or that you need. What are we looking at? Wants or needs? Sorry, Mary. Wants or needs?
Whatever you want, it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. Let's go for either or either. Something that you want or something that you need on the chat. Now, this is an interesting one for me, actually, because my kids have just gone off for their daily walk. And it's one of the things which I have been vowing that once all this is finished, I would love to be able to still go out for walks with my kids and do that much more regularly. And yet, almost every day this week, I've had to be working and I've missed the daily walk with my kids. So I've then kind of gone out either just before dinner or just after dinner with maybe one of them. But I find it interesting that a want that I have is already being taken away from me by my own busyness, and I'm not even out of lockdown.
So something like your daily walk. So for example, you know, this busyness, it still exists even in lockdown. We can make ourselves really busy, can't we? And probably what's happening is that you're putting work first, so you're prioritizing different things. So right now, you know, the daily walk just doesn't seem important to you, or you're choosing to do things over it. Okay, so that's the kind of reality of what's happening. So if it's something that you really want to do, you have to make that why really big. So for example, why did you want to do this session today? What are your reasons for doing this?
For Mentality Meets,
Yeah.
I suppose kind of one of the main reasons for me is because I want to create an environment and a space where people can meet and chat and experience kind of conversation around mental health and the world that we do. I'm also aware on a very kind of personal note about the PR process of kind of keeping the name of Pete Larkum and the name of Mentality out in the sphere of the world, but also in the lead up of Mental Health Awareness Week kind of next week, kind of just again kind of keeping a gentle kind of tread, I suppose, of interviews, time, and all of those things. So there's an element of kind of pattern and it fitting in the diary, meeting new people like yourself. So there's a number of kind of different elements to it as to why I therefore see it as being an important thing.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. So and you spoke really passionately about that. So have you applied that same thinking to the walks with your boys and your family?
Not to the same amount of thinking, no, I wouldn't say. I know that it is something that I desire and that I would like to do, but I certainly haven't thought about it in the same context.
And that's usually why we don't end up prioritizing stuff, because we haven't got further than the thought, oh yeah, we really want to do that, or I really need to do that, or I really want to do that. That's all. It just stays as a thought. We don't apply any thinking to it, any thinking time to it. Just reading the notes, kind of, so sports and pubs, wanting to do that at the moment, how could you manage to do it in a smaller way, or are you managing to do it in a smaller way, or yeah, because we can still have access to things. And what is it that you love about the sports, the live sports and the pubs? Is it the connection? Is it the, what feeling is it that you really get from that? And I imagine it's probably connection, fun, I'd imagine. So where else do you get those things from? Do you see what I mean? Just see, kind of applying that thinking. So actually, you've put a lot of thought and a lot of thinking time behind Mentality Meets and behind what you're doing as a business. And I'm not saying that you don't equally want to spend time with your family. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is you haven't applied that kind of level of thinking. So how can you make that bigger? So is it about having a conversation with your partner about the walks, and what things you get out of them, talking to your kids and asking what they enjoy about it, and then making it really important to you. So just a bit like you scheduled it, that at 2:30 we were going to have a Zoom call, and we're going to have a pre-chat, and then we were going to have this. Have you tried scheduling the walks in your diary like you do your business meetings? Something like that.
Okay. Oh, we're literally kind of 2 minutes away from the end of our session, Mary. Time's kind of flown with us today. And what I'm hearing, and please kind of correct me if I'm missing it in this, but what I'm hearing is about creating purpose around being kind to ourselves, thinking about those wants and those needs, and being able to actually apply the same level of critical thinking that we do when it comes to work, or in essence, the dynamic of our life that does take the time.
Yes.
And I think it's a great example, kind of just the context of Mentality Meets versus daily walk with the kids. And it's like you say, it's not that I don't want to do that. I just haven't applied the same level of critical thinking and purpose and drive around that time as I have with this time. And I feel that that's maybe true for a lot of us, is that there are things that we want to do, or things that we need to do to look after ourselves better, so as we can actually start to think about it in a much more critical way, so as we can start to apply it and make it happen within our lives. Is that kind of where we're at?
Yeah. And do you know the simplest way of increasing the self-compassion, and I do see self-compassion as a skill that we all have, and it's just a case of kind of remembering and deploying it when we can. And all you need to do is just say to yourself, so if you all do this now, what is when this call finishes, what is the kindest thing that I could do for myself? So you don't necessarily have to respond, but just think about what is the kindest thing that you could do for yourself as soon as this call ends.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. And then go do it. Okay, so the action is also really important, because it would be very easy, like log off and have a cuppa. That's probably what most of us are thinking. It would be very easy to get to, I'm just on the computer, I'll just do this. Remember the kind of the weeing thing, keeping a promise to yourself. How amazing and how incredible that you've just spent half an hour talking about self-compassion, and then you're able to go and put it into practice as soon as this call finishes. And then it's about giving yourself a high five, or DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever and tell me what you did, and I'll give you a high five. So it's about celebrating these little small wins everywhere.
Mary, that's amazing. And ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our time together. So can I just encourage you to do that? Just what Mary said, just kind of take some time at the end of this session just to have a think. What do you need to do to be kind to yourself? And then try and put it into practice this evening. And let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know kind of how it goes. That would be also brilliant. And let Mary know. But in essence, we're at the end of our time together today for Mentality Meets. I've been Peter Larkum. This has been Mary Meadows. Thank you so much for your time. Take care. God bless. And bye-bye now. Okay, that's our official ending. We do an official ending and then kind of see where it takes us. But thank you, Mary. That was brilliant. That went all over, and we could keep going for another kind of 20 minutes, half an hour. But I really appreciate your openness and your honesty as we've gone through this session today.
You're welcome.
And I know that I'm going to start putting some more critical thinking together to really look at what I can do to make stuff happen.
Yeah,
that's going to be my challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that walk, it's just having a conversation. It's just putting a little bit more thought in it. Writing some stuff down is really helpful because it's the power of the pen, and actually bringing it from our subconscious to our consciousness, which usually makes things happen. But yeah, scheduling a walk as alongside your business stuff, and it's not that you just haven't thought about it like that before. You just haven't applied that same logic to the stuff that we make happen in our businesses, to the stuff that there's lots of skills that we have that we can apply to our life that we don't even think about at work. But good luck. Let me know how you get on.
Brilliant.